Am I the butthole for refusing to pay a dime for the medical bills of the teenager I technically hit with my car? Last year, I was driving home from work on a 4-lane road that had a divider in the middle. It's dangerous to cross against the light because the speed limit is 45, but people do anyway. I saw a group of teens standing on the divider, waiting to cross my lane, but figured they were waiting for the light to change so they had the right of way before they crossed. Well, they didn't, and one kid walked right in front of my car. I slammed on the brakes but couldn't swerve because there were cars in the lane next to me. He was pretty seriously injured, but survived, and from the most recent info I have, he has regained full mobility but continues to deal with some cognitive issues. I blamed myself for a long time and spent several months in therapy over the guilt. But overall, the accident was not at all my fault. By the laws of physics, I could not have stopped in time. I was obeying all traffic laws, and he knowingly walked directly into multiple lanes of oncoming traffic against the light. Apparently, he said he assumed I would stop for him. But if I hadn't hit him, a car in the lane next to me absolutely would have. My insurance company defended me in the multiple lawsuits from his parents' health insurance company and the ones his parents filed against me personally, and I was ruled not at fault every time. But unsurprisingly, his parents are now seriously struggling to pay off his medical bills, and think I should be paying most or all of it. According to the GoFundMe, they have well over 6 figures of bills, will be losing their house, and one of the parents is out of work now. I've been contacted by no less than 20 people insisting that since I hit him with my car, I have a moral obligation to help pay. My issue: my husband and I both lost close relatives to what's going around, and received modest inheritances we were not expecting. So technically, we do now have the money to help. Without it, we wouldn't be able to make any meaningful dent in the debt. Our plan had been to use that to pay for IVF to start a family, and potentially adoption if that's how it goes. But now, with so many friends/family members of the boy reaching out to my husband directly about the GoFundMe too, my husband says he feels morally conflicted using that money to, in his words, create a whole new kid when one is already in need. He wants to give the money to the boy's parents to help pay off their debt, and is now even talking about the payment plan they want me to agree to. I understand that technically I hit a kid with my car, but under the circumstances I don't think I should have to sacrifice having my own kid because of his carelessness. My husband, and the legion of people harassing me, says it's cruel to refuse to pay a dime. I think helping even a token amount will open the floodgates, and I don't feel bad about refusing. Should I? My husband is someone I see as a really reasonably person, so he's making me second-guess my feelings. NTA. I'd be speaking to a lawyer about these people harassing you. Edit. If you are considering making the generous action of an anonymous donation, please confirm with a lawyer first that there is minimal chance of that being construed as an admission of guilt. I'd also suggest reporting the parents' GoFundMe for encouraging harassment as well. I think that would be too far. There is nothing wrong with asking for help because you're about to lose literally everything because your kid did something dumb and the American healthcare system is a joke. If 20 people have contacted original post as a result of the page, I don't think it would be too far at all. It sounds like the family has no problem giving out ops details to people. They could have asked for help without making her a target. If 20 people have contacted original post as a result of the page, I'm wondering if any of those 20 people have opened up their own checkbooks if they feel so bad. I'm not totally heartless, but the original post was ruled not at fault by the laws of common sense and by the appropriate courts. The real failure is our medical system, where this accident will not only hurt the kid for a lifetime but bankrupt his parents. The parents helped bankrupt themselves by filing multiple lawsuits. That can't have been cheap. Personal injury suits are often taken on a contingency basis, in which case no recovery means no out-of-pocket loss. Not always. If an attorney feels the case doesn't have a good chance to be successful, they're certainly not going to take it on contingency, but there are enough slimy lawyers out there that if people are persistent, they can find an attorney to take a case that has no chance of winning. Contingency basis doesn't mean no out-of-pocket loss. It just means you won't pay your own lawyer's hourly rate if you lose the case. You will still be up for any cost orders made against you, for example paying the winning party's legal fees, and will normally also be on the hook for court costs and sundries, for example filing fees, photocopying, and etc. Not necessarily. The lawyer I hired to represent me in a collision case only charged me a % once he settled the case in my favor, I was not the one at fault. The only buttholes here are the ones harassing her, and her husband is becoming one of them. If she feels guilty, she sounds like she does, listen to the comments above, talk to a lawyer and make an anonymous donation. If personally, spread the GoFundMe around. Obviously she isn't at fault, but there are lots of ways she can help without giving up on her desire to be a mother. True, but from their perspective, with all those medical bills, they may regarded suing as their only option for not going bankrupt, so suing was doubling down on a bet they'd already lost, with a small chance that they might win it all back. You're right. We New Zealanders, like people in Australia, France, probably Canada, the UK and all of Scandinavia, always find it a bit funny that Americans look on us as the international revolutionary socialist avant-garde, or something, simply for covering all the costs of these awful accidents with tax revenue. That's hospital, rehab, and therapy, lost working hours. No one loses their house over something like this where I am. Nor have they since about the 1930s. Still, we have 1% homelessness, so not everything's shiny. It's just sad when access to medical care becomes a matter of personal finances. I'm American and I hope so hard to have your healthcare system someday. Half of Americans are so stupid, selfish, religious fruitcakes loving Trump, and they hold the rest of us back so much. I would be happy dividing into two countries because America will never make any actual progress with how divided it is now. Like if the government said we are splitting up for the greater good, Democrats west half, Republicans eastern half, I would pack up my family and go. I feel like in theory it's the most peaceful way to progress. The medical system and the kid being an idiot. Just to be obtuse, just because it's legal, doesn't make it moral. Everything Hitler did was legal. That said, I don't disagree with you. It sucks for everyone involved, and it does pose a moral dilemma, but ultimately no matter how you spin it, original post is not the. Neither are Op's husband or the parents of the kid. I'll explain why I said all that. Op, original post, was forced into a crafty situation by a kid with poor judgment. It doesn't really matter who's at fault there, the kid being a dumbass, the parents, or Op. Op was forced, against their will, to change the lives of others. Others who she had no responsibility to prior to the accident, others she had no responsibility to during the accident, and was ruled in numerous courtrooms that they are not responsible for after the accident. She didn't birth the child who walked in front of a car. Why is she responsible for any of the bills? As a matter of fact, she had medical bills, therapy, due to the feelings of guilt. Who's paying for her therapy sessions as the at-fault party? Speaking in terms of liability and responsibility, original post has zero. Parents are not buttholes, they're grieving the near death of presumably their only child, while simultaneously juggling the stress of not only losing income but going bankrupt to keep their child alive. Whether their GoFundMe is calling people to action or they're being pressured by friends/family/coworkers/churchgoers to pass out Op's information is the big factor here. Are they giving it out angrily and with malice, or are they begrudgingly giving it out because the family has good intentions? That would tip the scale for the parents towards being the buttholes. Op, what do you want to do? Do you want to find a compromise with hubby to see what can be done? Do you want to stand firm? Either way, go speak to an attorney. If you want to compromise, talk to them about setting up the transfer, and being the mediator during the meeting with you, your husband, and the kid's parents. Find out a reasonable amount, that doesn't cripple you, and donate it to them, with whatever necessary contractual stuff needs to be taken care of to make it stay not your problem. If you don't want to compromise, then speak to your lawyer about the harassment and have them help you. Either way, the lawyer should be able to help you steer in the right direction on how to navigate this situation going forward. Actually, most of things Hitler did violated the laws of the Weimar Republic. They didn't care enough to repeal the laws that were on the books. It sounds like the family has no problem giving out Op's details to people. According to original post, there were a bunch of teens waiting on the divider, so most likely lots of them are contacting original post on their own accord. If original post has given the kid her number, or one of them saw it laying around in documents while over at their house, then the family could be completely blind as to what these other kids are doing in their behalf. The 20 people are honestly probably connected to this kid by some relationship. I doubt they were directed to harass original post from the page itself, or the page would have been removed already. If the GoFundMe has enough of Op's personal details that people can find them and harass them, then yes, that absolutely needs to be reported to GFM to get the identifying language removed. I was once witness to an accident very similar to what you're describing. A pedestrian ran into 3 lanes of traffic and I narrowly missed him, but the car beside me didn't. As someone who's seen what you're describing, I agree with your assessment that this was not your fault. At all. And every one of the 5 different times this pedestrian's attorneys have contacted me to testify in their latest lawsuit against the car that hit him, I am very clear that I will be the worst witness they ever call, because I will say in open court that this accident was 100% the fault of the idiot pedestrian who launched himself into moving traffic, not the fault of the poor driver who hit him and was also traumatized. NTA. If Original Post did nothing wrong and it was the teenager's fault, Original Post should not have to pay a single cent. I hope Original Post is able to report them for harassment. I am very clear that I will be the worst witness they ever call, because I will say in open court that this accident was 100% the fault of the idiot pedestrian who launched himself into moving traffic, not the fault of the poor driver who hit him and was also traumatized. Why say that? You should just say okay and show up and testify truthfully that it was his fault. The lawyers would not have let this person walk into the courtroom without speaking to them first and getting a gauge on what they were going to say, so really it saved them time. NTA talk to a lawyer, this is harassment. A cease and desist letter won't hurt. If you want to donate to the GoFundMe page with however much you feel is appropriate, it's there for you. Teens are stupid like this sometimes. I remember knowing a boy exactly like that, one who'd walk out into traffic without waiting or looking because cars have brakes, they can use them. He's lucky he wasn't killed. Kids learn to look both ways before crossing when they're 4. He had absolutely no excuse for his stupid decision. He knew better, and he made his choice. Don't donate without talking to lawyer first. Yeah, I've read too many horror stories about people paying even a tiny bit of a large sum of money that's demanded and then winding up on the hook for more because paying part of it accepts responsibility for the debt. If you do donate, don't do it in your name. Or transfer money to a friend to do it. Good tip, don't want any admission of guilt BS coming from that. Oof. I hate to say it, but a kid who has reached the logic of cars have brakes, they can use them, has missed several other life lessons along the way, not just looking both ways and having a healthy respect for 2-ton death machines. Knew a kid at my school who did that stuff. After the second time getting hit, we started calling him Frogger. The other night I saw a group of teens crossing the street as I was driving. Most of them hustled across because there weren't at a crosswalk. The last one of them was taking her sweet time and looked back at me with this attitude like, "What? You're not going to hit me." Of course I didn't, but she's such a dumbass. What if I was distracted on my phone or something? It was nighttime. They were jaywalking. Just the invincibility teenagers feel sometimes. I did hit a girl in a group of 3 that ran across a 6-lane divided highway in front of me. Luckily she only had minor injuries and I had 2 cars stop and wait to tell the cops what happened. And to top it off, her brother tried to attack me for hitting her and was then arrested by the cops dealing with it. NTA, you have been found not to be at fault multiple times. You have no obligation, moral or otherwise, to pay. This boy is to blame for his injuries, for the costs incurred, and for the financial consequences for his parents. The parents understandably don't want to blame their son for potentially costing them their house, but that does not entitle them to scapegoat you, or to pressure you and your husband into bailing them out. If your husband is so foolish as to make a payment to the family, a token will never be enough. They will take it as an admission that you should pay all of it. Your husband needs to recognize that there are, sadly, many children in need in the world. Unlike this boy, most of them are not the cause of their misfortune. If he wants to donate his inheritance rather than using it to start a family with you, there are better ways to do it. I can certainly sympathize with Op's husband feeling badly for a kid whose life and his family's lives are essentially ruined because of an incredibly stupid split-second decision he made. Original Post is not the butthole at all and shouldn't pay anything because you're right, it will never be enough, but man, if I were in their shoes it would still eat at me really badly. Op, I want to suggest that your husband see a therapist as well for this situation. Maybe after that he'll have a more grounded and less emotional perspective on everything and he'll see how unreasonable it really is for you two to be paying for this kid's expenses. What Op's husband is conveying is that he blames original post and thinks she should be punished and doesn't deserve a child. Therapy is definitely needed to find out why he hates his wife so much. That's a stretch. Op's husband could just be empathetic. I feel for the family of the injured boy, too. He is a teenager and his underdeveloped brain made a dumb decision and he'll probably have to deal with the fallout of that for his entire life. I, as a complete stranger, kind of feel an impulse to help the kid. If my spouse had been the one behind the wheel, I'm sure that impulse would be much stronger. That doesn't mean I don't think my spouse deserves children or deserves to be punished. Wanting to help and giving all the money they saved to start a family to the family of the kid are completely different things. Not to mention it was no Op's fault, and as others have said, giving money is sign of admitting guilt/fault. You can have empathy without wishing to destroy your future and disregarding the feelings of your spouse. It seems you and the husband feel the kid and family matter more than Op. I'm not saying I would do it, I'm saying I understand the impulse and don't think it's fair to tell original post that her husband is trying to punish her like the comment I was replying to stated. This site is so effing vindictive sometimes. This whole situation is tragic for everyone involved, and I agree with the majority here that original post is NTA. But there's literally comments in this chain suggesting going no contact with Op's own spouse because he feels bad for a boy whose life was ruined. Just take a step back and remember that everyone involved here is a human being. Everyone is upset and stressed out and has been traumatized. I'm sure original post and her husband can work this out by communicating with each other and seeking legal counsel. I am actually kind of inclined to say nah, except the family of the injured kid seems to be sending people to harass original post, which is unacceptable. Even if harassment wasn't in play, I would say NTA. Common sense should tell you not to cross a busy road when cars in several lanes are actively going 45 miles per hour. As sad as his whole situation is, the teen brought all of this on himself for making a very poor decision. And it's total BS for Op's husband to say they should put their family plans on hold over it. That is a massive and absolutely ridiculous leap in logic. Nothing original post has said indicates he blames her and thinks she should be punished and doesn't deserve a child, only that he feels bad for the kid. That is heinously, offensively presumptions and honestly kind of disgusting. Lol, that's ridiculous. He's getting bombarded with stories about this poor kid, and, like an empathetic person, is feeling guilty that he has money, and sees a kid who needs that money. It's very easy to make people feel guilty about money, especially if they're not used to having it/spending it on them. You get 20 people telling you for months that you owe this kid, you're going to start believing it. Feeling sympathy for a fellow human is not an unhealthy thing, but it sounds like hubby needs some perspective that therapy could provide. He clearly has a good heart, but you can't allow that to make you make poor decisions. Beautifully put. NTA original post, don't let his silly actions dictate your future. Forget about them, get your lawyer to send a cease and desist and move on with your husband. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube. And share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.